This is the anthem. Here's what you came for. This is the moment magic was made for. Come on, let's light up the sky now. You feel the magic happening right now.
Hello there. Welcome back to Fan Fatales.
Take a ride with us on the Hogwarts Express.
Walk down Main Street with our best super pals.
And defy gravity as we talk about all things fandom.
Hello, and welcome back to Fan Fatales, a member of the Real Fans Podcast Network. I'm Emma.
And I'm Gabby, and we are going to continue our celebration of Women's History Month by talking about some of the prominent female Disney Parks Imagineers.
Yes. And I kind of did it in order from when they started with the company. With our research. So the first one to be hired for the Imagineering department within Walt Disney Company was Harriet Burns. So we're going to start with her. Burns began working at Disney Studios in 1955 as a prop and set painter for the Mickey Mouse Club, and she helped design and build the famed Mouse Clubhouse, which was a featured fixture on the show. Her appearance caused her to stand out on set as she dressed in high heels and a skirt to work with the hardware and tools such as a drill press and sanders.
I love that, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, goals.
You go, queen.
I mean, OSHA would never, but like...
Yeah.
OSHA didn't exist back then,
No.
so who cares?
Yeah.
So Burns shared a workstation at the Disney studio with fellow Disney employee named Fred, Georger?
I think so.
I think it's Georger, but it's with a J. So Georger was a model builder for WDE or WED Enterprise. Did I just say WDE?
Yeah, you did.
WED Enterprises, or WED, which is now known as Walt Disney Imagineering. He was working on prototype models for the future Disneyland theme park.
Yes. In addition to her job as a set builder, Burns began working with Georgia in Disney's model shop, building miniature prototypes of Disneyland buildings and attractions.
WED Enterprises originally consisted of just 3 members, which were Harriet Burns, Fred Georger, and Walthall Rogers, and it eventually became known as the WED or WED Model Shop. So WED Enterprises was actually renamed to Walt Disney Imagineering, which alluded to the engineering and imagination needed to design a Disney theme park as well as the attractions.
Burns contributed greatly to the development of Disneyland at WED Enterprises by creating both miniature models and actual theme park attractions. One of her first assignments was to craft a model of Sleeping Beauty Castle, a Disneyland landmark, which opened with the theme park on July 17th of 1955.
She continued to work on Disneyland expansions after the park's grand opening. Burns designed models of the Matterhorn bobsleds attraction as a 1/100th scale replica of the famous Matterhorn in Switzerland.
Another of Burns' jobs at Disneyland was what is called figure finishing. Now, figure finishing involves applying paint and other finishes to Disneyland attractions and mannequins to create the finished look.
And I think that's the picture that I posted of her, is of her with the like finishing up a model. But I'm not sure. I can't remember.
Know.
There's a few like that.
Yeah.
It might have been actually in the planning room for Disneyland, but still, like there's a lot of figure finishers on here that we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
So Burns personally designed and painted the set pieces and underwater figurines, actually for what was originally the submarine voyage ride, which is now Finding Nemo.
Yeah. And she also applied individual feathers to animatronic birds in Walt Disney's Enchanted Tiki Room, which opened in 1963. Burns later confessed in a 2005 interview with The Hollywood Reporter that the Tiki Room birds were one of her most challenging projects ever. She managed to fix the look of the birds and actively maintained the Tiki Room attraction after its opening. And she also
Honestly?
created the birds for the film Mary Poppins as well.
Yeah. That's a
Yeah.
That's a lot of feathers.
Yeah, like
That's a
she did
lot.
the feather that is in Spoonful of Sugar. The like little blue one.
Oh.
Yeah. And they used the same like
Makes sense.
animatronic technology with that as the Tiki
As the
Room.
Tiki Room. Makes sense.
Yeah.
So Burns also helped with the models and final designs of New Orleans Square, one of the themed lands at Disneyland. She also designed the attractions within New Orleans Square and built an exact model of the Pirates of the Caribbean dark ride, which opened in 1967. She was also a figure finisher on the Pirates mannequins, and she similarly designed the Haunted Mansion, which opened to the public in 1969.
Outside of Disneyland, Burns was part of a team of Disney employees, which included Joyce Carlson, which created several Disney attractions for the 1964 New York World's Fair. Burns' contributions to the World's Fair included designing Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln, which later opened at Disneyland, and the Carousel of Progress.
Her work earned the attention of Walt Disney himself, and he featured Burns on several episodes of The Wonderful World of Color, the 1960s television show which gave a behind-the-scenes look at the Walt Disney Company, including the theme parks.
Yes.
She then retired from Walt Disney Imagineering in 1986.
She was honored in 1992 with a window display of her work on Main Street, USA in Disneyland with a commemorative plaque that reads, "The Artisan's Loft, Handmade Miniatures by Harriet Burns." And she was the first woman in Disney history to receive this honor. And similarly, she was designated a Disney Legend Award with like the D23 and Walt Disney Company in 2000 as an employee who quote, imagination, talent, and dreams have created the Disney magic.
Yes, 100%. And she was like the first of so many women to, like, she's the first one. She's the one that was like, yes, and started it all.
Yeah.
So, very cool. Next up, we personally have one of my favorites.
Honestly,
is
same.
Mary Blair.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's pretty cool. I mean, but there's a few also that I really love.
The
I
one
love all of
after
them.
her
Honestly,
is
let's
my
be honest.
favorite.
Let's be honest. I'm so excited for this episode. I've been waiting to do
I know
this
you
one.
have.
I'm so excited.
Yeah.
So, we have Mary Blair, born Mary Robinson, who is an American visual development artist, best remembered today for her work done for the Walt Disney Company. She was also wife of another artist, Lee Blair.
Yes. Blair.
Sorry, go ahead.
Blair produced concept art for many of Disney's post-war releases, such as Alice in Wonderland, The Three Caballeros, Peter Pan, Song of the South, and Cinderella. She also worked on art for Dumbo, an earlier version of Lady and the Tramp, and a second version of Fantasia titled Baby Ballet, which was not released until the late 1990s.
Her style also lives on through the designs for the Disney attraction It's a Small World, to which the attraction is primarily modeled after her art style. Her work at Disney parks can also be seen on an enormous mosaic inside Disney's Contemporary Resort.
In 1967, Blair created mural art for the Tomorrowland Promenade. Two similar tile murals flanked the entrance corridor. The mural over Adventure Through Inner Space was covered over in 1987 with the opening of Star Tours, while the other remained in place until 1998 when the Circle Vision 360 degrees was replaced by rocket rods and a new mural was designed to reflect the new theme.
Outside of Disney, she also illustrated several little golden books for publisher Simon & Schuster and designed Christmas and Easter sets for Radio City Music Hall.
Yes. She also worked as a designer for Bonwit Teller and created theatrical sets. Blair would also go to make sets of Walt Disney note cards for Hallmark, and in 1968, She was credited as a color designer on the film How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying.
Blair was posthumously honored the Disney Legend in 1991, one of the first women to be given the honor. As we mentioned, Harriet Burns was the first woman, but she was one among the first few.
Mary Blair was 1991, and Harriet Burns was 2000 for Disney Legends.
Oh. Then why did it say because it's posthumously. She wasn't actually alive.
Yeah.
So she was awarded the honor, but it's mostly credited as Harriet Burns being the first woman to accept the honor because she was alive.
Yes.
Is that what? Okay, got it.
The Mickey Mouse episodes Yodelberg and Oh So Many are patterned after Blair's distinctive art style.
And you could totally tell in Yodelberg. Like, you can look at it and you're like, yes.
And in
1914?
Yep. In 2014, the Walt Disney Family Museum hosted the comprehensive exhibit Magic Color Flair, The World of Mary Blair.
I love that.
Same.
So, next up, we have one of my personal favorites. I love her too. Just as much. Like I said, I love all of these women equally. I can't pick a favorite. They're all so good.
So it is Leota Toombs, and she began her career at Walt Disney Studios in 1940 when she was hired into the ink and paint department. She then transferred to the animation department where she met animator Harvey Toombs, whom she married in 1947.
I think we'll see this as a little bit of a pattern. There's a lot of Imagineering women who started off, on their own and then got to Disney, met the loves of their lives, got married, and So she left the company to raise their two kids, Lori and Kim, but she then returned to Disney in 1962 and joined WED Enterprises, as we know now known as Walt Disney Imagineering. She created and developed designs for the 1964-1965 New York's World's Fair, playing pivotal roles in the creation of It's a Small World, Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln, and the Ford Magic Skyway. So there's, these women were all working together actively, which at the time is very rare.
Yeah.
Like, this is cool. They were all working as a team, as a part of a team together, Not just like each of them on a separate team with a bunch of men.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah. After the World's Fair ended, Leota transferred her talents to some of the most beloved attractions at Disneyland, including Pirates of the Caribbean and the Haunted Mansion.
Yes. So, when the idea of a disembodied head that speaks from inside a crystal ball came about during the Haunted Mansion's development, Yale Gracie asked Leota to pose for the head just so they could, test it out. But it was decided that actress Eleanor Audley should provide Leota's voice due to the menacing quality, but the little Leota bride at the end of the ride does have Leota Toombs' high-pitched voice.
Yeah.
Like, it's small and high-pitched.
Yeah.
So she's the face of the Leota in the ball.
Yes.
But she's the voice of the one with the hatchet at the end.
Yes.
Yes.
And Eleanor Audley was a voice actress. Wasn't she Lady Tremaine and another one?
And Maleficent.
That's what I was going to say. I didn't want to be wrong.
Yeah.
We have, one singular brain cell going on here right now.
Yep. Totally.
Leota relocated to Walt Disney World in 1971 to start up on the on-site team that would maintain the shows and attractions at Magic Kingdom Park. After returning to California in 1979, she worked in several different capacities, including at Walt Disney Imagineering, where she trained many Disneyland figure finishers and artisans. And she passed away on December 21st of 1991.
Mm-hmm. Toombs was posthumously declared a Disney legend in 2009, and her daughter, Kim Irvine, who is also an Imagineer, having started with the company in 1970, And she is the face of Madame Leota in the holiday overlay of the Haunted Mansion.
Yes.
So it's like a little family.
That's only
thing.
Disneyland, because Disney World does not have the holiday overlay.
That's true.
Yes.
I also remember Kim in an interview one time saying that sometimes when she's in the park, like alone by herself, she can hear little Leota from the outside of the Haunted Mansion, because they don't like really shut it off all the way.
Yeah.
They leave a lot of the stuff running, and so she can hear little Leota sometimes as she's walking through the parks, and she's like, "Oh, hi, Mom."
Oh.
And it was just so sweet.
Yeah. So the next woman we're going to talk about is Joyce Carlson. And she first became involved with Walt Disney Productions in Burbank, California in 1944, when she took a job in the traffic department delivering mail, art supplies, coffee, and other necessities to the various departments.
Carlson created a pen and ink portfolio of her sketches several months after she began working at Disney and presented it to her employers. She was then hired into a position at the Disney Studios ink and paint department. This particular department was nicknamed the Nunnery at the time because so many of its employees were women, and they sometimes worked 16-hour days in order to finish feature films on time.
Jeez.
But isn't that awesome? They had a whole department who
True.
was like mostly women.
True. Her first work was on short Disney-produced training films made for the United States Army during World War II. However, Carlson was soon promoted to feature films, where she worked on for 16 years. Her credits include The Three Caballeros, Cinderella, Peter Pan, and Sleeping Beauty, and she was further promoted to lead ink artist during the production of the 1955 animated feature film Lady and the Tramp.
By 1960, the technology used in animation had changed, and that meant that ink artists were not really needed anymore in the animation process. So in 1962, Carlson joined WED Enterprises to work on the three-dimensional characters in Walt Disney's theme parks.
Yes.
Her mentors in the Imagineering group were Mary Blair and Mark Davis, the greats.
Yeah. One of her earliest projects was the Carousel of Progress, where she worked with Leota Lee Toombs. And for the show models, Toombs and Carlson were given chewing gum, wires, and earrings to make hinges for the refrigerators and various household appliances. Due to their lack of supplies, secretaries started to bring in bags of their old jewelry.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So the Carousel of Progress debuted at the 1964 World's Fair, as well as Carlson's next project, It's a Small World.
Yes.
She helped to create the original models and the designs for It's a Small World attraction, which debuted at the World's Fair, and she was one of a select group of artists and designers who were also sent to New York City by Disney in order to create attractions for the fair.
Within the Disney company, she became known as the artist who designed many of the famous ride's singing dolls. Following its debut at the World's Fair, It's a Small World opened first in Disneyland. Carlson later helped bring her signature attraction to Walt Disney World, Tokyo Disneyland, and Disneyland Paris.
Following her time working on projects for the World's Fair, Carlson worked on a team with Toombs, who we talked about earlier, as well as Harriet Burns and Glendra Von Kessel to create many of the models and final pieces of attractions such as the Tiki Room, Pirates of the Caribbean, Haunted Mansion, Country Bear Jamboree, and many others.
Initially, she worked as a costume designer for raccoons, chickens, geese, dogs, etc. on a show called America Sings, and these characters were later used for scenes in Magic Kingdom's Splash Mountain attraction.
My curiosity, though, is, are they gonna get rid of them because it's changing to Tiana? Are they, gonna skin them and start over? I'd be so heartbroken if they did.
I don't think so, because those are, some of those are fairly,
Regular,
animals and stuff.
chickens and geese kind of make sense.
The dog.
Maybe a dog or two. Yeah. I don't know, but I don't see where a raccoon would fit in the theme of this ride.
I don't either. That's the
Unless
only...
it's a trash can behind Tiana's restaurant. And she's like, get out of here, you vermin.
Yeah.
I don't know. I would be really sad if they like completely skinned them and just got rid of them, because like that's like that's like legendary. Moving them from one attraction to the other and putting some like country style clothes on them, that's no big deal. But I don't know, completely changing it, that would be.
Hey, they could also move them back over to
Country Bear Jamboree. Yeah, they could.
That's not going anywhere at Disney World.
I think ours is already gone.
Yeah, yours is already gone.
Yeah. I don't know. I never went on it. I never saw it. I have no idea.
I've seen it. You're not missing much.
Oh, good to know. Okay.
I think it's where Winnie the Pooh is for you guys.
Yeah, it is.
And from what I've heard from one of Andrew Barth Feldman's lives, because he's a huge Disney parks nerd and knows all this stuff, if you turn around, I forget what point it is, they kept like the two like heads that spoke during the entire show. Yeah. Because it was so hard for them to get them down. So they're still like up. They're just like dead and not
behind
moving.
you.
Behind you.
Yeah. Yeah. It's fun. I also like looking back to see the original Pooh, because there's a point where like Pooh's like tumbling around. And like if you turn around behind you, you can see like the model that's being reflected in the glass. It's fun. So she continued to work on newer attractions at Disneyland, Disney World, Tokyo Disneyland, and Disneyland Resort Paris, and she was mentored by Disney's first generation of attraction designers, notably Grace Bailey, Mary Blair, and John Hench.
In the later years of her career, Joyce moved to Florida in 1982, where she served as the resident It's a Small World expert, even developing new dolls for the attraction, including those representing Israel and Korea, helped maintain audio animatronic figures, and even helping Disney legend John Hench select the color palette used for the park's iconic carousel horses.
Additionally, she supervised the installation of the Haunted Mansion in the Walt Disney World's Magic Kingdom, and she also became the first female Disney employee to reach the 50 and 55 years of employment milestone in 1954. And she was working at Disney World as a senior show production designer at the time.
Yes. Carlson officially retired from her full-time position at Disney in 2000, but remained at Disney World part-time until at least 2006 and continued to mentor Disney Imagineers through 2007.
She was declared a Disney legend in 2000 and honored with a window on Main Street, USA at the Magic Kingdom in Disney World. And the commemorative window, which is Disney's version of the Hall of Fame, is a rare honor bestowed on employees who have made significant contributions to the company and its theme parks. Carlson's window, which is on the second floor of a structure along Main Street, reads, "Dolls by Miss Joyce, doll maker for the world. Shops in New York, California, Florida, Japan, and Paris. Owner and founder, Joyce Carlson."
Another tribute was made in her honor when Imagineers created a Joyce Carlson doll that is featured in the Florida attraction.
Yeah. Honestly, like even just like reading what the window said got me a little choked up. That's like very sweet.
I forget where it is, but I've seen it before.
Yeah.
So
what? Next one. This lady, oh my gosh, is she a fun one to talk about?
Yeah. So her name is Ruth Shellhorn, and in March of 1955, with Disneyland hurtling toward its opening day, the book Ruth Shellhorn author Kelly Comraz describes that Walt Disney faced a challenge of getting the distinct areas of the park to hang together. This was a problem for the exceptional landscape artists, and at the glowing recommendation of a colleague, Disney called upon Ruth Shellhorn for the job.
So she arrived on the scene and very quickly gained trust. And in the Imagineering documentary, actually, they talk about her a little bit. And they mentioned that, you know, day one, she stepped onto the scene and she was directing these men around. And they followed her every word, no matter what she said.
Yeah.
And, like, there are pictures of, like, lines and lines and lines of men. And then Ruth, and then more men, more men, more men. It's crazy. So she caught a discrepancy actually in the plan concerning the grade in a particular area, which actually made a big influence on what the park's layout was.
Yeah.
And she also insisted that Walt Disney's idea to put a bandstand in the town square entrance area would block the view and be a bad choice. So once construction on the bandstand was underway, he realized she was right, and he removed it. And he was like, you know what? You have my absolute confidence. Quote, you have my absolute confidence.
Yeah.
And that's how it all started. So, go ahead.
Shellhorn faced manifold challenges, including realities of space, climate, soil conditions, and artistic/philosophical concerns. She also helped design walkways for pedestrian flow. Among the artistic and philosophical concerns were the need of a sense of cohesion between the distinct Frontierland, Adventureland, Fantasyland, and Tomorrowland, which while also providing atmosphere that fit the mood within each area.
Yeah. So the thing that I wanted to point out, like, by including her, is that, you know, we have Imagineers who worked on every aspect, right?
Yeah.
It's not just attractions, and it's not just layout design, right?
Yeah.
She was on the floor, on the ground, making stuff happen.
Yeah.
And she was damn good at it. She could look and say, no, that's not going to work. Do this instead. And they would ignore her and do the other thing anyway. And they'd be like, you know what, Ruth, you were totally right.
Yeah.
And like, this is the 50s. That's a big freaking deal.
Yeah.
So anyway, I had to include her. I had to make sure we included her because she's just bless you.
Thank you. I'm going to go.
For somebody to be told by Walt Disney, you have my absolute confidence and like his absolute trust of this project, and just like not a question, that's pretty influential.
So our next Imagineer is Alice Davis, who in the mid-1950s received a call from Mark Davis. He needed a costume for dancer Helen Stanley to wear as she performed live-action reference footage for the animation of Aurora in Sleeping Beauty. Mark wanted to see how the skirt flowed and bunched as Stanley moved about in order to draft accurate animation. During this project, she and Mark grew closer and eventually married in June of 1956.
There it is, another one. Met on Disney property, fell in love. Like your parents, met on Disney property, fell in love. Geez, I wonder, what did they put in the water there?
Pixie dust.
Tons of it, I guess.
Walt Disney saw the two newlyweds at a Los Angeles restaurant one night and immediately took a liking to Alice and the quality of her work. Walt hired her as a costume designer for the 1960 Disney film Toby Tyler.
I have never heard of that.
Same. She also aided in the design of costumes for various other Disney films and television shows.
In 1963, Walt came to Alice with a rather novel assignment, assisting artist Mary Blair in designing the costumes for the auto-animatronic children of It's a Small World.
Yes.
So Alice researched the different cultures and regions being represented and translated the attire into translated the attire customs into over 150 different costumes.
Yes. Her other work for the fair included the period-specific costumes for the Carousel of Progress and the costumes and wigs worn by the cavemen and the Ford Magic Skyway. What is the Ford Magic Skyway? We've talked about it a couple times.
I think it was the original model for the People Mover.
Okay. I was just wondering, because it almost sounded like, what is it? Spaceship Earth. Like,
no,
from
I
these
think
descriptions of, like, her talking about the cavemen and all that, I'm, like, just picturing Spaceship Earth.
Yeah, I think it was the original model of the People Mover, and then Ford pulled their sponsorship, so they just renamed it and changed the vehicles.
Okay.
Yeah. During the Small World project, Alice established an audio animatronic figure costume manufacturing area, a quality control system, and refurbishing techniques at WED Enterprises in Glendale, California. These systems and techniques are still used today by Imagineers and maintenance staff at the Disney theme parks worldwide.
In 1965, Alice says she, quote, went from sweet little children to dirty old men overnight, end quote. Walt assigned her to create the costumes for the audio animatronic characters that would inhabit the Pirates of the Caribbean attraction. Alice created 47 different costumes, each one period specific to the 17th and 18th centuries, but still had a Disney flair to them. Pirates of the Caribbean opened in 1967 and remains a Disney theme park favorite to this day.
Because of her versatility, she also designed the costumes for the Mission Control audio animatronic features in the revamped Flight to the Moon attraction, which was the same year as Pirates.
Yes. Following Mark's lead, Alice retired from WED in 1978, but still consults on various projects for the Walt Disney Company, such as the Pixar film Up. In order to solve a central question of the film, quote, what are the most important things in life, end quote, the Up filmmaking team turned to their oldest acquaintance and relatives, mining their memories for stories. The influences included Joe Grant, who died in 2005, and Alice Davis. She also makes appearances at Disney-related events and fan meet and greets. So I think her and her husband are kind of like the Ellie and Carl inspirations.
Yes, I believe so. Alice was named a Disney legend in 2004, and on May 10th, 2012, she was honored with a window on Main Street at Disneyland. The window above the Disneyana store next to her husband's window reads, Small World Costume Co., Alice Davis, seamstress to the stars.
Yeah. So the next woman we're going to talk about is Dorothea Redmond, and she was hired by what is now Walt Disney Imagineering in 1966, where she helped design portions of Disneyland and Walt Disney World Resort, including a residence in New Orleans Square intended for Mr. Disney himself.
The area was used as a gallery after Disney's death in 1966, but the space above the Pirates of the Caribbean attraction was converted into an apartment called the Disneyland Dream Suite, based on her original design that had been used by randomly selected guests at the resort since January 2008.
Yeah, so it's kind of like the Cinderella's Castle Suite at Walt Disney World, where random people get selected to go up there.
Yeah, you have to, like, win a contest or, like, have won something, or just, like, randomly they'll pick you.
She also designed many other aspects of the stores and eateries in New Orleans Square, and she designed Fantasyland at Disney World in Florida, as well as portions of Main Street and mosaic murals in the archway of Cinderella Castle that were implemented there in Tokyo Disneyland, which that mural is amazing. I love it so much.
In fall of 2008, she was honored by the firm's Disney Legends program, honoring her achievements on behalf of the Walt Disney Company. Marty Sklar described how, quote, her watercolor sketches were extraordinary placemaking.
Yes. An exhibit of her work opened at the company's Information Research Center in Glendale, California.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we have two more ladies we're going to talk about who still even, like, are around today and still are, like, big deals at the Disney Company. You know, most of these women that we've talked about have already retired or, like, aren't really working anymore or have passed away.
And I wanted to talk about these two because, like, it shows the women in Imagineering to this day.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we saw the beginnings. We saw sort of in the middle, you know, coming on once there was already something there. And now we're coming into, like, you know, women who are hired out of college and still work there today and are making big impacts now.
Yeah.
So we're going to start off with Kathy Mangum. So she started her Disney career working in Adventureland merchandise locations at Disneyland Park in 1976 while she was attending college.
Yes. Later, as an Imagineer, Kathy worked on projects around the globe, from overseeing the enhancements of the seas with Nemo and Friends at Epcot, providing creative direction for Disney's Typhoon Lagoon and Disney's Blizzard Beach water parks at Walt Disney World, and Finding Nemo Submarine Voyage at Disneyland Park, and the debut of Cars Land at Disney California Adventure Park in 2012.
She was also Imagineering's Atlantic Regional Executive, overseeing the creative portfolio and strategy for Walt Disney World Resort, Disneyland Paris, and Disney Cruise Line, although she did retire in 2018, but, like...
Yeah?
I mean, she retired, like, what, in her 60s, 70s?
Yes.
Like, pretty early. She's, like, not old.
Yeah.
She's, like, she retired relatively young, so...
And then our last one is Doris Woodward, who is an Asian American woman as well. I wanted to highlight that. I think Dorothea is a black woman from the pictures and everything I read about her. But that comes very important into one of the things that she helped create. Designer and art producer Doris Woodward first brought her magic to Disney parks in 1979. Her visionary perspectives and creative candor helped bring some of the World Showcase pavilions at Epcot to life, including the China Pavilion in 1982, and she later worked on Disney's Animal Kingdom theme park in 1998.
Doris was also a key leader in the international development of projects like the opening of Tokyo Disneyland and Disneyland Paris in 1983 and 1992, respectively.
Yes.
Her international work continued through Shanghai Disney Resort, opening in 2016, where she developed the culturally relevant details for the resort with, quote, authentically Disney and distinctly Chinese elements.
Yeah, which I thought is really cool.
Absolutely. And, you know, who knows what's to come? You know, we have no idea how the Disney company is going to develop and grow in the next, 30, 40, 50 years.
No.
I cannot wait until we get to talk about, the women hired in 2012 and 2010.
Yeah.
And they were fresh out of college and,
Yeah. That'd be cool.
Who knows? We may be naming people that we know.
Yeah. That'd be cool.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much growth, and I think there's so many wonderful things that so many women engineers are doing, and especially in Imagineering, I think that's what we need. So I'm excited to see what the future has in store.
Yeah, same. And congratulations to these women, especially the ones that were named Disney Legends, because that's not an easy feat.
No, and it's not taken lightly. No. Absolutely not. That's like one of the highest honors you can have.
Yeah.
At least in terms of Disney.
Yeah.
I don't know, to me, if I wouldn't care. Like, there's so many other things, Nobel Prize, whatever.
True.
Nah.
No.
Disney Legend?
Yeah.
Freaking win, man. Like,
yeah. So, shall we get into the little bit of this fandom news that we have?
Yeah, absolutely.
The Jonas Brothers will offer 5 concerts on Broadway this spring.
Rachel Chavkin and Sonia Tayev joined the creative team for the previously announced new musical adaptation of the legendary F. Scott Fitzgerald's novel Gatsby at American Repertory Theater in Cambridge, Massachusetts.
Briga Helen, Justin Girani, and Aisha Jackson are going to lead the Broadway company of Once Upon a One More Time, which is Britney Spears' new musical, right?
I think so, yeah. Jose Lana and Conrad Ricamora will reprise their roles in Here Lies Love on Broadway.
Eric McCormick, Lily Cooper, and Laura Bell Bundy will be returning to Broadway this summer in The Cottage, directed by Jason Alexander.
Laurie Metcalf, Tatiana Maslany, And Sophia and Caruso will star in the Broadway thriller Grey House.
Kristen Chenoweth and Stephen Schwartz are coming together again for the Queen of Versailles musical.
RuPaul's Drag Race icon Jinx Monsoon has announced an extension to her run of Chicago on Broadway and will have her final performance on March 26th.
Yes. The breakfast buffet has returned to Chef Mickey's at Disney's Contemporary Resort. For the past little bit since post-COVID, it has been like table service where a waiter brings you your food, but it's back to the buffet.
The Halloween Festival and Disney's Enchanted Christmas are returning this year to the Disneyland Paris park.
On March 1st, the same day that Mandalorian Season 3 started, The Mandalorian and Grogu made a surprise appearance at Star Wars Galaxy's Edge at Disney's Hollywood Studios. Disney has announced that the two will continue to make regular appearances in Star Wars Galaxy's Edge and are not a limited time offering.
I saw videos of this. That's so freaking
I saw videos.
cool.
I was telling Sean that that he and I need to go.
Yes.
So bad.
They need to bring it to Disneyland now in California.
They're already in Disneyland in California.
But not that much.
I don't think they are going to be either.
Big sad.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Or no. We'll see.
That's all we got this week. It's a light week. We're also doing 2 episodes this week, so we got to spread it out.
Yeah. And I'm very excited for the other episode we're recording this week.
Yeah.
I'm so excited.
So do you want to get into the outro so we can tell them what it is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Fan Fatales. We are a proud part of the Real Fans Podcast Network.
That's right, and if you want to check out more shows on the network, you can find them at rf4rm.com.
Next week, we will be sitting down to talk to Katie Dodge, a chocolatier at the Ganachery at Disney Springs, who created a very special Ahsoka Tano pop for Women's History Month, or as the Disney parks call it, celebrating Her Story Month.
Remember to subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts.
And subscribe to us on YouTube.
Please leave us a review and comment down below to tell us what you thought of the show. And remember to follow us on Instagram and Twitter at FanFatalesPod for the latest updates. Now, Emma, where can the people find you on social media?
So my Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter are all at Snippy Emma, which is SNIPPYEMMA. What about you, Gabs?
I'm at Gaby Gent pretty much everywhere. That's GABYJENT.
Our editing is by the wonderful Carolyn Swire.
And as always, thanks for tuning in.
Bye!
Bye! Views, expressions, subject, and object,